Well, hello everybody on Nilsbird Training on Facebook and also at Nilsbird Training on YouTube. You are most welcome to our quite small roundtable discussion this time. The last time we had a roundtable discussion, there were 6 of us round the table. It's a virtual table, of course, but today it's just myself and Sharon. Hello, Sharon.
Hi, David, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen, all the way from Zambia.
That's right, and I'm here in the United Kingdom. So, to let people know what our few minutes of discussion are about tonight, it's really our final look back and a summary feel for how the conference went, educating the 21st century student. So, to begin our virtual roundtable discussion, I'm just going to take us through the programme again and remind us of some of the things that we looked at. So you'll see on the screen, and I hope it's clear enough to all of you, because I know probably most of you, if not all of you, might be on your phones. You'll see our wonderful picture from Africa. When I put it in there, definitely is from Africa, and the title of our conference that many of us would have attended, Educating the 21st Century Student. So we know that the whole purpose of the conference was to try to start us to get to think about what do we do with our students in the classroom, knowing that they're not 20th century or 19th century students, they are students of the 21st century. And of course, it was an online conference for Zambia and beyond. And you know that we had teachers from the Gambia, from obviously many from Zambia, but we also had one teacher from Eswatini and Tanzania and also Uganda. So Sharon and I's original idea of working together, as we see on the right-hand side about our partnership, did actually go beyond Zambia. And that was really, really pleasing. So over the 3 days, what did we actually engage with? Well, we engaged with 9 live sessions, 3 keynotes and 6 live workshops. And also you had opportunity to watch pre-recorded workshops as well. And I hope many of you actually had the chance. So if you did manage to watch all of the pre-recorded and the live, you actually had over 11 hours of training. We've had some really good feedback from those people who wanted to fill the feedback form in, and I'm going to share some of that with you in a few moments' time. So what kind of things did we learn? Well, before we talk about that, I would just like to share again that we had some amazing trainers, world-class people who I'm sure many of you would agree had some great knowledge that they could share with you. For example, we've had Alison Borthwick and we had Dr. Alan Cross, sorry, Dr. Tony Birch and many others, okay, who had much to share with you. And many of these people who shared have much international experience, which made them very appropriate and relevant for our course, or our conference, in fact. So we had 6 hours each day, minus our breaks. And as we said, we had live events and pre-recorded. So on day 1, you had the pleasure of me talking about what's the best way. And one of the things I was trying to get us to see was what is really important in the classroom. And the thing I was really trying to get us to see was it's learning that's important, whether we have many resources or whether we have few. The fact is, learning is the thing that goes on in the classroom, and that should be the most important thing, whatever our circumstances. And of course, I introduced the differences between active and passive learning. And as a result of that, I think we began to, you were introduced to this thing because it then was like a stream through the whole of the conference. Everybody wanted to talk about the importance of active learning and that we should all be doing it. But of course, the challenges for many of us, or some of us, is that resources are the issue. But during the conference, we did try to emphasize that active learning can be done whether you have few resources or many resources. So after my keynote on day one, we had my multi-topic questions mathematics workshop. So what was that about? That was about looking at different maths questions and the way that there can be more than one topic within a question. And as a result of that, how do we support students access them? Obviously, this is especially important in the context of exams. After that, we had workshop 2, which was a science one. And Stephen shared his immense experience of working, especially in the Gambia for his charity, and trying to reach out to you all and show you how you can do science practicals with few resources. And we even talked about going to the market and what you can buy there to support it. So that was day one. Day two, this time you had Alison Borthwick getting us to think about in the keynote address, what's more important, content or skills? And that was a challenge because we know many of our curriculums are kind of really full of much to learn. But she was trying to challenge us to say, with all of that, should we be, changing it? And what should we really be focusing on, content or skills? And then we had our 2 workshops, the first one being an English one, where Siobhan was straight in there trying to get us to see how can we deliver English when we have few resources. Ideas and techniques, realia and other things were mentioned as a way of trying to focus on getting English taught well. And then our second workshop, it was all about thinking. Now we know it was a maths workshop, but clearly all of our subjects need our students to think. And that was what Alison was trying to get us to see. Not just about learning facts and memorizing now, it's actually thinking. And as we can see on the screen, thinking harder. On day 3, we had a duo. We had Alan Cross and Tony Birch delivering our keynote address. And this time, active learning again, but so much about dialogue and how talk is so important in the classroom. And then our 2 maths workshops, well, we had a choice. This was an interesting time, as we know, because it was breakout rooms. And it was good to try. First time I tried it with the software in a live context, and it 80% worked. So you had a choice of either listening to me about what do? We have a clock, an analog clock. We have students in the classroom. And I used that analog clock as a launch pad to think, well, how can we do practical work? And where do our students come into that? And I talked about what I'd done at a primary school recently and how I taught a number of different things with the clock, but fractions was one of the things I emphasized. And then we went on to talk about, well, how do we use students in general? If you don't have anything but your classrooms outside, the students are a great resource. So you either listen to me, which I've just explained, or you went to Sanjit, and he was trying to get us to consider understanding essential mathematical topics whilst maintaining low stakes assessment environment. And I think all of those of you who went to that enjoyed that. And he was trying to share different types of teaching, but it was more focused at the higher end of secondary. And then our workshop 2, the last workshop, was based on what Alan was trying to show us again. And he said 70, I asked him, didn't I? Science inquiry. He was trying to get us to inquire, just like Alison was trying to do us, getting the students to think. And the comment I asked him was, how much do you think you can do with very few resources? How much science could you do without resources? And I think he said even 70% without, because he said, didn't he? He teaches much practical science without many resources. And then if you did manage to actually play the pre-recorded stuff, Anne did a great one on asking questions in an active classroom, no resources necessary. And because a DT wasn't available, Anne and myself did kind of a 2-part work on assessment for learning in the classroom. So I hope you also found that beneficial too. Jolly Phonics was put in as a special thing for you there. So that was specifically provided for primary teachers. So I hope some of you maybe have even picked up using Jolly Phonics as a result of watching that. And then Joe Hubbard made available his 8 videos, which normally through Nilsbird Training you have to pay for each individual one. But for anybody who's a Christian teacher who was particularly interested in learning about teaching creation science from a biblical perspective, all of Joe's workshops were available. Now, you all know that the conference occurred because we were sponsored. And at the bottom of on this screen, you can actually see 3 of the sponsors: Gora Mining Solutions and Lem Hydraulics, and this private couple, Mr. and Mrs. J. Burns. But we also had Mineral Link and JC Bousfield as sponsors. And if it wasn't for the sponsors, not much, we couldn't have gone ahead actually with the conference. So we'll move away from the program now, and Sharon and I are going to think about, specifically other things. So my own personal thoughts on the conference. Well, personally, I think it was very successful. It was the first time that Nilsbird Training had that many people in any one place. Yeah, there weren't, I've done webinars last year where maybe 10 or a few people came, but for the first time, I actually had over 70 teachers, and that was amazing. And I've sent out well over 50 certificates because not everybody requested a certificate. So that I thought was really successful. Just the fact that for the first time, so many teachers were able to be in the same place. And in fact, with some of the feedback, which I'll share in a few moments, proves the point, actually, that people did actually feel they benefited very much from it. And we had, and I couldn't ask for any more, trainers who were prepared to commit to the project. The sponsorship made it possible for them to have a fee, but if they'd been charging normal professional fees, we wouldn't have even been able to go about the conference at all. So it was really good that people were happy, the trainers were happy to come on board and be part of the project. And of course, it made it possible for you to attend the sponsorship as well, because you didn't have to pay a fee or another organization actually paid for you. So I think overall for me, from Nilsbird Training, it was a real positive experience. I certainly enjoyed doing it. You can imagine there was a fair bit of stress and a fair bit of preparation involved. But it's given me some ideas and food for thought for where Nilsbird Training, in conjunction with CHPSA and other organizations, is going to go in the future. I mean, you would know that all of us as trainers are very passionate and wanted to support. We all want to support teachers and helping them. And my own personal feeling is I want to especially support teachers whose circumstances are a little bit more challenging and who can't actually access normal price training. Training in the United Kingdom can be quite expensive even for a ordinary teacher here. So you can imagine training for yourselves, if you don't have much income or your school doesn't, could be well out of your league. So that's been one of the focuses, which was why it was great to partner with Sharon's organization and work together, especially to get the sponsorship and make it all possible. So Sharon, you've sat there really quietly for 10 minutes, putting up with me speaking. So we haven't got any comments from Facebook or YouTube yet. So maybe some will come, maybe they don't want to comment, that's fine. But as we haven't, so would you like to go ahead and share some of your thoughts on how you felt from maybe yourself as an individual? So that's you as a person. What did you learn? Then I know you had some teachers of your school attend, so maybe some of their thoughts, if you know any, and then CHPSA's, what benefit was it to CHPSA? Sorry.
I run a school in Chingola.
Okay.
I have been running a preschool for the last. When I teachers, I found that there was quite a lot of subjects or ways of teaching that could have been improved. So I bumped into you, and we did a webinar last year and got some back. And with working with Chingola Private Schools Association, I've been trying to push and trying to find ways where we can improve the teaching, or even just the availability of courses, or giving them the opportunity to experience like knowledge from experienced teachers or trainers. So after I met you last year, and I did that webinar with you, and two of my feedback and trying out things, and with wanting to encourage the teachers and give them opportunity to learn other methods and to see what's out there, being able to get together with you, working with Chipsa, with all the other trainers, being able to get sponsorship, and actually just convincing a lot of the schools that it was free, that the companies had paid for it. At first, they were very apprehensive, a bit slow to take up the offer, but I'm really glad that a lot of them did show interest, and I think that the conference was a real success, and I think that they had a mountain of information. Even like you said, not go and do it all at once, but definitely to introduce bit by bit, and like having to have the latest technology, not having to have the latest whatever, iPads, or as long as you have a teacher and a child, and thinking and learning, those are the elements which you can build any foundation on. And I think just watching the trainers and gleaning from the knowledge that they had with their experience, they passed on so much positive feedback, in the sense that each of them had worked abroad. They had been in experiences where there was little or no resources. So it was not somebody who came from the Western world going, oh well, this is how you do it. They had proof. They had like one of the chaps went into the market, like you said, and bought what was available to do his science experiments. You don't think, oh well, I need to have all these chemicals, but he was talking from his own life experiences, which I think is something that they can relate to very well. So I think overall it was a enjoyed it, and implement some of the training. We're going to really try and set out a real good plan to follow, using some of those ideas, and just really get them to really start thinking about getting the kids involved, more active learning, getting a balance of skills and content, trying to find a happy medium. Yes, back at school next week, and start using some of the methods.
Okay, thank you for that, Sharon. We're getting some comments coming up on YouTube. For example, Gibby saying the training was very educative, and I've learned a lot of skills and experience. That's being shown on the screen now. C Zulu saying it was definitely helpful. Trainings like these makes it possible to see where you're at personally, what you need to improve and what you need to apply. So, and there's other, one or two people watching. So that's encouraging. Thank you, people, for actually watching, because it's doing a live stream. I don't have any idea, of course, unless people actually watch it. So that's great. But let me share some of the other comments that people actually put on their feedback on the feedback form. So, for example, we had the question was, what were your key takeaways from the conference? Right. So one of the person had written, passion, skills, and imparting skills are ideal for each subject. Another person wrote, active learning, and that there is no excuse to say I don't have learning materials. Teaching aids are everywhere, including children, which kind of backs up what we were saying. So those are a couple of the comments. Under the question, any other comments regarding the conference? Somebody just wrote perfect. I mean, that sums it all up for some people. You know, it has been full of insights. So those are just, and there's obviously a few other comments, but because of time, there isn't, you know, I can't share them all. But, you know, we're grateful for the people who did write some comments. And so that we all are aware, I'm sending those comments to the companies so the companies can see the benefit that their monies has paid. And that, you never know, might encourage them to consider sponsoring us in the future. Unfortunately, because of the sponsorship and the way the trainers were happy to work with us, as I shared with you earlier, we do have some monies left over for next time, whatever that next time might be. So Sharon, we've got 9 minutes left on the live stream, but in a couple of minutes, do you want to share what your any thoughts at all that came across or have come to you since the conference of where you might think we could go again if Nilsbird Training was to work with CHPSA in the future?
Sure, I think that it would be really nice to actually do a face-to-face conference. Hopefully the situation with COVID will come to an end, or will come, I don't know, to a situation where we can move forward, because if we are, I think it would be good for the teachers to see hands-on, like with scientific experiments, and just also to see, you know, doing more swap shop, think, pair, share, bouncing ideas off each other. And I think it would be it's much easier to do it in person. And I think you're very limited, although it was a great success, the conference, you are very limited with your questions and your answers. And it's easier to stand and ask somebody face to face for something or about something than it is to do online. Also, you have technical issues, well, definitely in Zambia. But yeah, so no, I think in the future, I think it would be really great if we could actually have a face-to-face conference and actually get some trainers out and go from there.
Well, I mean, certainly I'm getting, you know, even as a result of doing this conference, and I said it was a first for me, I'd never had 6 trainers or more all in one place at one time. I'd never done that before. I'd also never done a radio advert before, for those people who heard the radio advert. So there were some firsts with this, but definitely I would you know, I would agree with you. It would be nice if we could actually be able to get out, but at the moment, the whole of Southern Africa almost, I think probably that's true, is on our red list. So currently, as we stand, if one of our trainers came to your country and we came back into ours, we then have to spend 10 days in a hotel at our own expense, which I think is a couple of £1,000, and then all the testing. Now, personally, I'm not willing to do that yet, but for example, the Gambia is on our amber list with Gibby and Ahmed listening to this. The Gambia is on our amber list as an example of what could maybe where Zambia and the other countries might go next year. If they drop down onto the amber or even into green, I think it's more likely that some of us will be able to come. But also, of course, you know, at the moment, if we came out, would we still all have to sit separately at different tables and not be able to physically be around the same table and those kind of things? And I think that also has to kind of be a little bit more relaxed to make it worthwhile being face to face, like so that we can talk to each other, so that we can be close to each other. But we'll just have to see how things go, won't we, with the COVID situation. But definitely, I mean, my workshop, for example, on using the clock and talking about the students getting physically up and moving, that would have been a much better session done in a live face-to-face situation than doing it online. Are you there, Sharon, still? Did you get all that?
Yes, I'm.
Right, it's just occasionally because of your feed, the screen freezes. Okay, so now that's as much as I personally have got to share tonight. So I would just say thank you very much to those companies again. Let's see, Mineral Link, JC Bousfield, obviously Mr. and Mrs. J. Ferns, Lemma Hydraulics, and Gora Mining Solutions. They made all of this possible, and we're very, very grateful. And I would just like to say thank you, Sharon, and your organization for working with me. And we will be in touch. Obviously, we're constantly in touch with each other anyway. And for those people who are watching this live stream, you know where we're going to go forward with keeping contacts after this live stream is finished. So really, this is my official end of the conference and all that we've been doing for it. You know, I'd just like to say thank you, even that I had chance to work with you, Sharon, and of course, and support people who attended. Would you like to? So those are my final comments. So do you have some final comments, Sharon?
Yes, I also want to just say thanks very much for all your time, for the trainers' time, and thank you very much to the sponsors. Even, you know, that they believed that we were going to do something, because it's, you know, and I think they were quite impressed at, you know, the feedback that I'd definitely been given, the fact that we did it on a professional level. You know, yeah, and even if we don't manage to do a face-to-face conference, I'm very keen to do another webinar conference. And like a lot of the feedback, people are coming to me and asking about the conference. They didn't get a chance to do it, yeah, for what various reasons, and asking when is the next one. So I do think that maybe next time we'll have more than 70 teachers. Definitely, I think that it will be a growing theme. So yes, thanks once again to everybody involved, and thanks also for your organisation and time.
That's okay. All right. So thank you for those comments. So I'm going to say goodbye now, and thank you very much if you've watched. It's pleasing that we've had what C Zulu has given. So we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 people watching, which is great. It's better than nobody. And if some others have watched as well, that's good as well. So thank you very much for everybody for watching. Thank you again, Sharon, for attending tonight and joining me with this discussion and a look back at the conference. So I will say goodbye. So it's goodbye from me.
Goodbye.
And goodbye from Sharon. So thank you very much, everybody. And the live stream is going to finish now. Thank you very much and goodbye.